Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Trying to get myself settled here. Good evening. I feel like it's been forever. I was recuperating from the flu. So I am glad to be back in the land of the living. I was not out. I was not gone. But that flu was something. I nearly stole Christmas. I'm just trying to decorate now. After being sick. So it's good to see all of you guys. I had wanted to get on so bad last week and it just did not work out at all. So it's going to be kind of a duo live. I had something I wanted to share, just some of the things that I was sensing as we're ending this year and going into the new year. And then, of course, I had, while I was sick, because I'm a little bit of a workaholic, I still had done some Q&A stuff where I was just typing out some questions and people were answering them. And consistently, one of the biggest things when we're talking about business and business development is how to grow your audience. So I wanted to kind of do a combo of those two together tonight and just kind of talk through that and give you guys some tips. So yeah, I am happy. I am feeling better as well. Someone said they're so glad I'm feeling better. It has taken a while, but I can say I'm almost at 100%. Got a little too excited on Sunday at church. I had to preach and, was back on the bed on Monday, but I'm glad to be going. So I hope you guys had a phenomenal year. I hope that you are ending the year with hope and with excitement and with joy and with expectation for the new year. You know, some people say stuff like, well, a year doesn't really mean anything. You're just changing another day. It's not that big of a deal. And I tend to agree to a certain extent, but I do feel a weight on the shift that's going to take place into 2020 and what that's going to mean. But I'm going to share that at the end. So I'm going to do the business stuff first. I'm going to talk about how to grow your audience, and then I'll share the prophetic stuff at the end concerning just some of the things that I'm sensing. I am still jotting down everything that the Lord has been showing me. Generally, when he gives me a word for a year, it's not just for the year. It's like for the next 10 years or the next 15 years. So what the Lord's showing me is a little bit of an overlap, but also some new things that he's going to be starting. All right, let me stop talking about that because I'm going to go right into it. So I'll do that at the end. For those who jumped on for the prophetic encouragement, you can stay on for the business stuff first. So we have our Wealth Transfer Academy coming up in January, and this is for creatives, book writers, life coaches, therapists, inventors, scientists, anybody that wants to start their own thing, that wants to launch products, build an organization, build a business of any sort. And this is going to be really helpful for people who are even in ministry, who are like, I know that God has given me a word. I know that God has given me something to say. I just don't know who I'm supposed to be saying it to. I don't know what that's supposed to look like. So when we talk about audience, that's more of like a marketing term. You hear people say, find your people group, find your tribe, find those that you are called to. And this is really, really important, whether you're in ministry, whether you're in business, that you have clarity about this. One thing I'm going to say about marketing, finding your audience, finding your people group, is that I would rather you start than not start because you don't know who are your people. Because sometimes your people form around your product. And so your product can be you. Your product can be the socks that you created for cats. Your product could be your counseling company. Your product could be the shoes that you draw. Your product could be your sermons, right? I know people don't like to think about ministry in that light, but it really is. Ministry is a product. When you have a church, you have a product. And you're giving that product to customers or consumers. They're either going to like it or they're not going to like it. Now, that doesn't mean that especially on a spiritual tip, I'm going to talk about the business stuff in a minute, that you keep changing who you are spiritually or even the DNA of whatever you're producing spiritually so that people like it. But you have to be very clear that this is who I am, this is what I have, and these are the people that are for me. It's the same thing about products. Whatever product you're creating, if it's a book, if you're creating any kind kind of business, it is important that you're clear about that. So the first thing, and I had shared a post a couple weeks ago, that the first thing you got to be clear about is your identity, not even your product. Like, be clear about you. Like, who are you? What do you want out of life? What do you want people to experience when they interact with your book, interact with your stories that you write, interact with the plays that you put on, interact with the coaching that you do, interact with the inventions that you made? Like, what is that? And I had shared this briefly, but some people have a hard time branding and even finding their audience, one, because they don't understand that they have to look at themselves that way. And even when you're in ministry, you have to understand that you are a product, meaning God has created you, he has put something in you, and it is your job to get what is in you outside of you. And so it is important to understand that. And then it's important to understand who you are, so that the product that you're creating, whether it's, I see Miss Ginny on, she makes the cutest little stuffed animals, whether it's that, whether it is courses, whether it is, you know, flags for dancers, you're not going back and forth because you're not clear about who you are. So what I see is that when people are going through like identity shifts and identity changes, they begin to change their stuff. They begin to change what is coming out of them because they haven't developed a clear identity about who they are. The other reason it's so important to develop a clear identity about who you are, it's because it's going to help you when people reject what you produce. When people reject what you produce, when people reject what you have to carry, when people reject what you bring to the table, when they reject that, if you're strong enough and you know that I am a son, I am a daughter, I am loved, I belong, you're not going to be so brokenhearted that it delays you for another 6 months to get going again. So while you want to have clarity about who you are and what you carry, you also want to understand that I'm also outside of my product. I'm also outside of my invention. I'm also even outside of my gifting. Yes, I want to perfect it. I want to be clear about what it is and how I deliver it and the aspects of it. But in addition to that, it is not who I am. It does not define me. My husband and I were just talking through some things this week, and I put up a post about how difficult pastoring is. And I have realized that a lot of people will burn out, and they will literally, there's high suicide rates for pastors, there's high burnout rates for pastors, and I think one of the reasons is because they get their identity from being a pastor. So anytime your identity is wrapped around what you do, anytime someone criticizes what you do or what you produce, then you think they're criticizing you. And so the biggest thing that they do is they internalize a lot of what people are saying, a lot of what people are doing, and they think it's always them. And sometimes it is you, right? So there is a time for introspection. There is a time for assessment. There is a time for weighing things out. But you want to have clarity between who you are and that God loves you and you're validated, and then begin to have clarity about your product and what you bring to the table. So that's one of the best things when you're saying, I want to build an audience. I want to know who my people are. They want to know who you are, and you need to be clear about that. The next thing is that you need to position your product. This is the other thing, and this is stuff that we teach in the Wealth Transfer Academy. That's why we're giving you guys some videos to give you a clue into the value of what you're going to be getting in the Wealth Training and the Wealth Transfer Academy. And one of the reasons the Wealth Transfer Academy is priced the way that it's priced, if you do what we're going to coach you to do, you're going to make money. You're going to be able to make 6 figures. You're going to be able to build your brand. You're going to be able to build your product. That's why when you go to law school, you pay more for law school than you would pay if you were going to a training at a community center, right? Because lawyers make a lot of money. Our lawyer makes a lot of money. So you want to make sure, you want to understand the value of things. And that's part of pricing, even when it comes to your products and all of that. I'm jumping ahead, so that's for another day. How do you price and all of that? But position your product. You want to create a platform where people can see, hear, connect, or have an experience, whatever you have to offer. People are like, well, God, God's not opening doors. Nobody's coming to invite me to speak at their conferences, or nobody wants to buy my stuff. Well, it's because you haven't done the work of connecting yourself to people who want to buy it. And let me tell you something. Most people who want to buy it are not your friends, and they're not your family, and they're not your church mates. There's an actual art to building an audience. There's an actual system and there's an actual process in learning how to connect with people that you have never met before. I was listening to my mom tell a story to my husband about when she did Mary Kay. When she did Mary Kay, there was no social media, right? And I remember going with her on some days. Every day she had to go out and meet at least 3 people. She had to give her phone number to 3 people every single day because that is how she was going to get she was going to get customers to buy her product. Well, we thank God that it is not as difficult anymore, that everything that you do in order to build with and connect with people doesn't have to be face-to-face. There is a lot of face-to-face things that you can do, but you don't have to just rely on that. But there are things that you have to do daily in order to build your audience. And so let me give you guys a tip. One of the first things, and I'm actually working with my husband on this, and he is way more thorough and more brilliant than I am. So when his stuff comes out in January, it's going to be amazing. But he does know that I have a pretty good marketing mind. So he asks me some questions. And so we were just talking about having a lead magnet, right? So he's going to have the bomb website. He's going to have an amazing group for anybody who wants to learn about finances, wealth building, all of that. And so today we were talking about his lead magnet. What is it that you're going to offer people so that they really know that what you're talking about? This is why the Chinese stores, they'll give you little samples. I shared this before. So if you have a product, you need to get in a place where people can actually see what you're offering. Thank you so much. What you're actually offering. And it depends on what you're doing. I had a daughter at church who creates these amazing carved things that say we gather here and welcome home, all the rustic farm stuff. So she's really going to have to get into places where there's showcases where she could buy a vending table. But that's not the only thing. You get on Etsy. You have to find the right platform, and it is your job to do it. All right, I'll answer any questions at the end. I think someone's asking, do your husband have a ministry? We have a ministry together. It's called Legacy Centered Church. And then he's launching his business. It's called Empowering Your Money in January. All right, I'll answer the questions in a minute. All right, so let me keep going. Another one is partner with people in your industry. So you've got to understand that there are people that have gone before you that have more information. And what you want to do is say, how can I serve what you're doing? How can I learn from you? As you're learning from them, you're going to get tactics and you're going to get tools. I've shared this before. Before I had any speaking engagements that I could say no to, right? I would partner with people who had already gone in the steps that had gone ahead of me. And not only would I say, hey, how can I serve you? But I would say, hey, are you able to come and speak? I'm not able to give you a lot because I'm just starting out, but this is what I can do for you. And so you have to be really intentional in creating a platform. God is not going to do it for you. For some of you guys, it's YouTube. For some of you guys, it's LinkedIn. For some of you guys, it is positioning yourself in a live face-to-face. So there are many, many ways that you can learn how to do that, and we'll teach all of that in the class. Another one is that you have to be consistent with your message, your delivery, your output. Don't start one product this month, and then when you realize, oh, this is not selling, let me create another product, and then 3 months later, you're selling MLM stuff, and then 3 months later, you're selling, Lululemon leggings. Come on. Be consistent. One of the biggest things that I've seen when it comes to people failing at business is the ability to be consistent. Now, I say if you've been in a business for over a year and you have not turned a profit, you're either doing something wrong or you're in the wrong business. And so after a year, it takes about 3 to 6 months of consistent work, consistent building to begin to build a profit. When it comes to ministry, it may take a little bit longer, but be consistent in whatever the Lord has called you and do it on a consistent basis. Don't be going back and forth. It is really confusing for you. It's confusing for the people who were really gang-ho about what you had to bring to the table, and then they lose you because you're so disappointed. I see people who fall off for 6 months because they're so disappointed, and they had a momentum. They had people that were interested in what they had, and then they just dip. You cannot do that. Business, ministry requires longevity. It requires hard work. It requires consistency. You cannot be led by your emotions. You cannot be led by your emotions. And guys, Google is your best friend. Before I even launched into online entrepreneurship, and I promise you, there's a whole world of it. And I mean, I am in one stream of the online entrepreneurship, which is online courses and products. That's my main thing. And now we have gone into memberships, which is our online university. But there are people who do masterminds. There are people who do live conferences. There is so many different things. There are people who just sell products. They just sell products on Pinterest. They just sell their art on Etsy, and they make $15,000, $20,000 a month. But it's all about positioning. It's all about consistency. It's all about believing in what you feel like the Lord has given you. And why am I talking about all this again? Because, I'm a prophet. I am a psychologist. Why am I talking about business? Why am I talking about making money? Because I believe that we're in a season in which God is giving us creative ideas in order to create wealth so that we can expand the kingdom of God. Somebody asked me a question and they said, how does an idea equate to wealth? Well, ideas are like seeds. And if you have a seed, your job is to plant it. Your job is to water it. And when it raises up and becomes a tree, the fruit on that tree cannot feed just your family. It will feed other people. And that is what the Lord is trying to do in this season. Another one, leverage social media. Don't be like, I have a business, but I don't want people in my business. If you have a business page, you got to make it public. Nobody's going to find you. You got to use hashtags. You got to open yourself up. I don't really post pictures of my children that much on social media anymore because I made it public. If I post something that I think is really cute, I generally will delete it by the end of the day, right? Because I want to preserve a sense of privacy for them. But in order for me to have gotten where I needed to get, in addition to not having any more space on my personal page for friends, in order to allow followers, I had to go public, right? For business, if you want to sell products, if you want to do ads, you can't do that on your personal page. On Facebook, that is against the rules. You got to do that on a public page. You cannot have a business and not have a social media page. And it's the same thing even with ministry. We are in a visual, video-driven age. And I believe that if Jesus was in this day, he probably would have gone viral lots of times, right? Because he gave, fed 5,000 and people were walking left and right. And so you want to position yourself for people to be able to connect to your message, connect to what you have to bring to the table. And you can't do that trying to be secretive and private about your life. All right, 2 more, and then I'll take some questions on business, and then I'll go into what I'm sensing for the new year. You want to be clear about your audience. Like you define your audience, and there are ways to do this. I'll give you 1 or 2 questions you can ask about that, but obviously we want you to take and invest your money into the course where we'll spend an hour and a half just on what we call your avatar, your person, your audience, your people group. And those are connected to the problems that you've been called to solve. So think about the problem that you're solving with your product, with your message, with your sermon, even a simple thing like I gave the example of Mama Ginny. She makes really cute stuffed animals for children. They could even be for adults. And sometimes you don't even know that there is an industry out there that needs your product. But your job is to search who needs what I bring to the table. Who are your people group? Right? And so I know that I'm called to growing Christians who are interested in learning about their identity, about their purpose and what they carry so that they can impact the earth and make a difference. And so when I'm creating products, when I'm praying for my people group, when I'm just dreaming about the future, I know who I am wired for. And so you want to be clear about that. If you create dolls, then your product, your people group is not just the little girls, it's the parents that are going to buy the dolls for the little girls, right? If you create, songs, then your people group may not even be singers. Your people group may be producers or songwriters that may need music. So you need to have clarity. But the number one way to be able to do that is think about whose problem am I solving? What people group has the problem that I have a solution for? And that will give you a clue into your people, and that will help you. And there are questions you can ask around your niche, around your product, to be able to help you kind of isolate or identify who your people group is. All right. So let me take a couple questions around business, around audience building. Then I'm going to go into sharing what I sense, just some things as we're ending the year. It's not really about 2020, but I feel like there's some things that we need to do before this year is over. How do you overcome the fear of public speaking when your business is going to require you speaking? It's easy for me. I want the money more than the fear. Like, if I want to make money, I know that I need to speak. So for me, what is at the end is more valuable than me holding on to my fear. Jesus endured the cross for the joy that was set before him. The joy was us, and he endured public humiliation. He endured scourging and beating because he knew that he had an end place. And so thank you, someone says you make me excited. I love reading that because this is why I do this. So when I think about things that I'm afraid of doing, well, even today, I didn't even want to get on here. I'm exhausted. We're getting ready to travel to London next year. My husband and I are throwing a staff party for all of our volunteers. So we don't ask for help. We want our volunteers to rest. So I'm at here. But I also know I have goals. I have goals for my family. I have people that have been asking me to help them. And so what was more important for me right now is getting on and not necessarily me being tired or me being overwhelmed. And this is called discipline. You cannot succeed in business without discipline. Discipline means doing things when you don't want to, doing things when you're afraid, doing things when you don't know what the response is going to be, but you just have a sense that it is the right thing to do. And so when you struggle with fear, basically when you choose fear over whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing, you're saying, you know what, I value my fear more than me actually breaking through in this area. I value this fear. I would rather be fearful than actually step into what God has called me to do. All right, you made me jump up to work on my craft projects. Good work. Pinterest, Etsy, that's the best place for your crafts. Instagram. All right, let's keep going. Let's take some of your questions. Guilty of falling off. Disappointment is real in this space. Yes, it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to feel the disappointment. I have had projects that I was like, this is from the Lord. This is going to be like the bomb. And it really was the bomb. Like it literally fell apart, like it crashed. But I went back and I learned from it. And then I started again. You've got to have resilience if you're going to succeed, whether it's ministry or business. I have 2 books out that haven't done anything. I needed this. Yep. So please, before you write a book, figure out who's your audience. Who's going to buy the books? How are you going to connect your book to your audience? How are you going to market it? That is so important. It's one of the main reasons I'm doing the Wealth Transfer Academy, because apparently we are in this book writing frenzy. When I asked people what were some of the biggest regrets of 2019, they said not staying on their health routine and not finishing a book. So everybody's writing a book. And if you're going to write a book, you need to know how to market your book, beyond publishing it. You need to make sure that your tears and your late nights, I know how hard it is to write a book. Kicking out my last book that I just did was like childbirth, right? And so I would hate to write a book and nobody read it. I would hate it. But we start things and we don't have a plan of where it's going to go. And I feel like that's also a waste of our resources, which is our time and our energy. And the Lord is actually going to hold us accountable to what we do with our time, to what we do with our energy. So we want to be really wise about the things that we are doing. All right. Let's see. Other questions. Building your audience, business. I'm launching multiple things in 2020. This is timely. Excellent. One thing I would say about launching multiple things, and you may have been in business for a long time, so it may not be a big deal for you, but I also do see people launching multiple things when the first thing they've launched has not succeeded. One thing that I always tell people that are multifaceted, or you have so many ideas, God is just talking to me, is I would look and assess your life and say, what was the last thing that succeeded? So when I first started my business, I was doing one-on-one coaching. That's what I did. And I was seeing 40 people a week, and I was at my cap. And I was making good money, but it wasn't the good money that I could make if I started putting some of those same things into courses. So if I teach 100 people at once over four weeks, it is going to be even more effective because I get to impact a bigger group of people and get to bring in more income than me just meeting with people back to back to back. So I had reached capacity, and so I went on to the next thing. Reached capacity with my courses, or I'm getting there. I told my husband, I don't know if I'm really going to do courses. I'm really going to focus on DTA, Destiny Training Academy, for the next several years, but who knows? But you want to make sure that you, when you start something, scripture says, faithful is he who begun a good work in you to complete it. So if God is that faithful to complete what he has started in you, can you be faithful to complete what you have started in you? Can you partner with God and at least complete it? And sometimes complete it doesn't mean success or succeeding at it, but it's saying, you know what, I ran with this thing as far as I could. I did everything that I knew how, and I feel like the Lord is changing the season. So I want you to be assessing whether it's ministry, whether it's church, whether it's business, that you make sure that you complete what you start. All right. Let's see. I want the money more than fear. It's true. A lot of people are afraid of money and they don't even know it. So one of the things that we're teaching in the Wealth Transfer Academy, the first day is on how to break the poverty mindset. And we're going to do a free webinar for you guys on how to break the poverty mindset, just to get people a clear understanding of the value of what you are going to get in the course. But how to break the poverty mindset is so important, because a lot of people can make money, but because they're subconsciously afraid of it, they're not able to make it, and they don't know why. And it's because they're going in cycles, they're making decisions, they're sabotaging whatever ideas, whatever careers, whatever promotions God is bringing them. And it's more mental than anything else. The moment that I got to the point that I was not afraid of money because I knew that God could trust me with it, it began to come. Most people are afraid of money because they can't trust themselves with it, and they can't, and therefore God can't trust you with it. We know that our heart is desperately wicked unless it is submitted to the Holy Spirit, unless it is yielded to God. And so if your heart is not yielded to God, there's probably an internal thing where you're afraid, and you will say stuff like, and you'll be critical of people that are wealthy. You'll read something like, oh, well, why do they need to make 6 figures a month? Why do they need to do that? And you'll begin to be critical because deep down inside, you don't trust yourself with that level of wealth. And so you assume no one else is trustworthy. So that's breaking the poverty mindset, and that's part of the Wealth Transfer Academy as well. So I am very creative. How do I know which idea in my head to pursue? The one that you have the resources for, the experience for, and the one that will make you the most money quickly. Because if you can make money from a product, then you have money to build other products. So don't just do what you love, do what's going to help you create income so that you can do what you love. Right? What I really love, I'm going to be doing in about 15 years, which is rolling around in the dirt in Africa and in Asia, building schools, living, and working with orphans and working with governments and doing policy, going to the nations. Like, that's what I really love. Right now, all I'm doing is building my credibility, because if I go to a meeting in a governmental building and say, I want to start a university here, they're going to be asking me about my credibility, and not only just what have I done, but what kind of money are you bringing to the table? So I don't want to go into those places begging to do the work of the Lord. I want to be able to say, here's my check. We have raised, $500,000. This is what we want to do for your city. This is what we want to do for your community. What can you guys do to meet us? And so it's important that you have an end goal. You have a bigger picture to your why. And when you have an understanding to your why, you won't give up. Like, if you know you're doing business because you want to help children in orphanages, you're doing business not only because you want to help your family to break poverty, but because you want to, help, single mothers, whatever it is, that thing will keep you going. All right. All right. Any other questions? Walking regardless of my flesh. Good. Let's see over here on Periscope. Yeah, you got to have a big why. That has to be your driving factor. Money is not enough to sustain you, because you will get to the point where you have enough money. You can get to the point where you're making enough money, but your dreams need to be God-sized dreams. When you have God-sized dreams, then you will keep working and you will keep pushing. Your dream can't be because I want to get a Bugatti or I want to buy a Louis Vuitton. Those are little dreams. They're frivolous to God. Right? Meaning that he will let you have those things, but what is the big thing? How do you know what content to give away and what content to charge for? That is something that we will teach you thoroughly in the Wealth Transfer Academy. But one of the things that you want to do is not to be stingy with what you have to give away, because when you're stingy, people can discern that. People are more willing to give money to people that are generous. We call it a generous mindset versus a not a stingy mindset, not a poverty mindset, a scarcity mindset. So when people have a scarcity mindset, they don't want to share information. They don't want to share what they know. They don't want to share because they're afraid that other people are going to outrun them and do better than them. But the truth is, I could give you all that is in my head, and you could still never do what I do because you're not me, right? But you could do what you do, and you could do it excellently. So this is what you want to focus on, not worrying that you're giving away too much and not worrying about repeating certain things, because people need certain information over and over. So you want to think about that. You want to think about what are the things that people need to know, right? And then you teach them how to do what they need to know. So I teach you what you need to know, and I give you little clues on what to do, but you're not going to get the fullness of what to do until you invest your money into me and into my product so that you understand the fullness of it. All right. Let's see what else. You push and encourage us in so many areas. Thank you. Bless you. Hey, Dr. Faith, we have a junk. Okay, I need you to make your questions quick, my dear. All right, because this is really long. I did sell through a flea market, but that was not worth it. I opened an Etsy account and haven't done anything with it because I'm stuck in appraisal pricing. I just keep waiting. I'm not sure what my fear is. Okay, and in conjunction, I restore the furniture. That's so easy. When it comes to pricing, take a week and look at your competitors and look at their furniture and look what they have created, and then you look at what you create, right? And then the other thing is, ask your friends, say, hey, if I was to sell this, how much would you pay for it? Because oftentimes people will undervalue themselves. When I first started, people were like, you charge $45 an hour? Like, why are you doing that? Like, and my mindset was, oh, these are believers. They don't have money. Well, I've learned believers have money and they pay for what's important to them. But they'll tell me like, no, your stuff, what you give people, the breakthrough we experience through in an hour or in 30 minutes, this needs to be $125. So you need to begin to ask others that do what you do, or people that have bought stuff from you or have been interested in your stuff, and then go from there. And then start with what you know. Don't be afraid to raise your prices. You raise your prices when you're in demand. So the more in demand a person or a product comes, the more it can go up in value. Right? So for things like Louis Vuittons or the luxury bags, they never go on sale. You know why? Because they're high in demand. They don't ever have to put them on sale. So if you start at a price base and people keep wanting it and you don't have enough time to make it, you can say, I can only make 10 of these a week. And because of that, I'm going to make them $100 instead of $50 because I know the value of them. People want them, but I don't have the time and the energy to make more. So because I can't make more, I can charge more. All right. So do research, look at your market, and then price based off of that. All right, I'll answer like 2 more questions, and then I'll give you guys my insights on the end of this year. How can you leverage inner healing with a secular audience? Definitely. But if that's your audience, right? If you know that I am called to people that don't walk with Jesus, because I assume that's what secular is. One of my best friends, she spoke up, Pioneer Girl Shannon, she shared that when a person goes through therapy, they are more likely to come to know Jesus after they have healed their soul. So there are people that are so broken out there. That's why the psychics and the new agers are having a field day, because they're offering people false hope through these false readings, through these false chakra linings, and, attracting the universe to your soul, because everybody's looking for their soul to be settled. They're looking for their souls to be anchored. And so if you know that that's who God has called you to, that's who you go to. Now, the only thing is that you need to have clarity on how you get into the door. Getting into the door is probably not going to be like, oh, da, ba, 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 shata, Jesus, Jesus, everything, right? So you need to have the right languaging to get in the door. But if you're a believer, you better believe that there's no real inner healing without Jesus. And so you want to get them in the door. You want to get them feeling comfortable, and then begin to give them the word of the Lord and how to heal and how to be restored. But you can sell anything to anybody, but you just need to know how to market to your audience. How do I do that without the support of my spouse? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like your spouse sometimes does not have the vision because it's not his vision. And sometimes our spouses don't get it until they see it. And men, especially because they're the providers, and they take care of things, they don't want to just hear you saying, I have an idea, I have an idea. So what I would suggest is don't even talk about it. Just be about it. Stop talking about what you're going to do or how you're going to make this money. Just actually do it. That's what I had to do for my family. I had to be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And when they saw it, then it was like, oh, okay. Now we see, because sometimes people don't understand when you try to explain your vision or what you carry. They just don't get it. And then when they get it, they really get it. So don't allow that to be an excuse. If he's saying you can't use the house money or the family money to do your products, then figure out a different way. And don't use your personal money to start business. Figure out a way to start a business and make money from that. All right. Let's see. Thanks for promoting the order and timing of things. Awesome. False hope is right language. It looks fake, like you're a fake president. Okay, I don't know who that is, but that's all right. So we just thank the Lord. And so let me just share with you guys some of the things that I'm sensing, just 3, it's not a lot, for the end of this year as we're getting ready. So we have a 7-day fast that we're doing. So a lot of you guys are part of our WMI Fast and Prayer group. And so we have put up that information. We fast the last 3 days and then the first 4 days, or the last 4 days and the first 3 days. But I just feel like there's more. So like in September, I gave a word that something big was coming. In October, I came back and I said, there is, there's something more that's coming. And we're in December, and I just feel like we're on this place where the Lord is like, don't give in yet. Like, don't give up yet. And I have seen how the Lord tends to cram in so many things at the last moment. That is just his nature. Like at the last moment, things begin to just be crammed in. And I feel like there's just more. And I don't even know how to clearly articulate that. Our church stepped into something huge today. We're going to announce it publicly on Sunday. And even with that opened a door to something else. And I feel like there are things that the Lord is saying that are going to open a door into 2020, and you just need not to give up. Now, these are not things that you have not been working on. These are things that you have been working on, you have been pushing in, you've been investing in, you've been believing in, and it didn't necessarily manifest in the way that you thought that it would manifest. And the Lord is saying, don't give up, because he doesn't necessarily move in our time frame, and that there is more to this. And what I also sensed was that the grandeur, or this feeling of that something big is coming, was not just a word for September, but that is a season that we have entered in. We have entered into the season of the big thing. And when I gave that word in September, I clearly said, watch politics. There are some things that are going to manifest in politics. There are things that are going to manifest in government. There are things that are going to manifest geopolitically that is going to be a signal of this something big that is coming. And so I feel like we're in a bubble of that big thing. And I know that some of you guys have not felt it. You're like, I don't know. You don't even know what that big thing is. And that's part of the problem. You need to begin to ask God to to awaken the big dreams. You need to begin to step into the big thing for your life, whether it's finishing school, whether it's getting in on a good place with your spouse, whether it's seeing your children come to the Lord, whether it's breaking through in your career, whether it's breaking through in ministry, whether it's learning your identity. What is that thing? And the Lord is saying that you need to hold him accountable to that thing. Like, we're in this bubble of the big thing. And the cool thing about 2020 is that we're ending a decade in 2019. We're moving from one decade, and I can never say this word, into the next one. When you study the prophetic and you understand numbers, 10 is a number of completion. 10 is a number of trial and a number of testing. And I'm going to go more into this. I always release the word of the Lord on our New Year's Eve service at our church, but we'll release it publicly. But when you have passed a test, when you have gone through 10 of something, it usually means that you have passed a test. So the children of Israel were supposed to get to the promised land in 10 days. It ended up being 40 years because of their grumbling and their complaining. And I even felt that. Like, we need to begin to believe the Lord for the last 10th of this 10th decade, like the last 10 years. Like, we need to believe for him. Like, we need to milk it and squeeze it. The other day I got this prophetic song at church that the Lord was saying, like, I'm pouring myself out on you, and I want you to squeeze all that is in me unto you. And so I feel like just step into it and stay there and get clarity. Say, God, what is it? And if your dreams have died, say, God, awaken my dreams. If you don't have hope for the big things, God, say, I don't know how I'm supposed to hope after everything that I've been through, but help me to hope again. Help my unbelief. Help me to know that you're the God that can do the impossible. The other thing that I felt is concerning all this fear that has been spread via posts on social media concerning human trafficking, concerning child abductions, and all of that. I feel like the enemy has taken that because all he wants is a door. And wherever anybody opens a door of fear to him, then the spirit of torment can be introduced. And I feel like we saw a surgence of these posts and all these things in the last 3 months. So, and the enemy has used that to bring torment, which will then paralyze you from moving forward across the threshold with excitement and expectancy. And a lot of people don't even know, but what they have started to feel is stagnation, and they have started to feel weariness, and they have started to feel overcome. They have started to feel pressure. But I feel like the enemy used that as a door, and I am not discrediting it. I'm not saying it's not happening, but I also know that at the beginning of last year, our church prayed fervently for the exposure of human trafficking, for children being returned, and we have seen that like never before. And so you have to be very careful that when there are different things going on in the atmosphere, that you watch what attaches to you so that it does not overwhelm you and so that it does not overtake you. This is not the time to be afraid. This is not the time to agree with torment. This is not the time to even be overwhelmed. This is the time to have clarity, because you're crossing over into a new epic in Bible, in the word, or when we talk about time frames, there's epics or epochs, EPOCS or EPICS, or seasons, or like set apart times. And we are on the threshold of something new in 2020. I know people say that with every year. I don't say that with every year. I believe that we're going into another 10-year span. And one of the words that I gave when I released about the something more is that there are things that have happened for people that broke them in the last 12 years, in the last 10 years, that in 2020, it's going to make sense why. It's going to make sense why. And it is so important that we just stay focused. We just stay committed to the Lord. We just stay driven and in love with him, and he's going to honor that. So that is what I wanted to share. We will be in London next week, Friday. If you're in England, if you're in Germany, if you're in France, if you're in Spain, if you're in Belgium, we would love to see you. Friday night is free and open to the public. Saturday is training, activation, deliverance, supernatural miracles. We're going to equip you guys in that so you can still register. We have extended early registration for a couple more days. People were asking us to do that. So we have extended that for a couple of days. Someone said praying for revival in London. Yes, we love London. We love Europe. We feel the Lord has called us there. And so we're just so excited to be there next Friday night and Saturday, just releasing. We're bringing a whole team. And so if you guys have friends, family in England, let them know Friday night is free, open to the public. The information is on our website. Wealth transfer early registration was supposed to end November 30th. I said, you know what? I'm not going to bother with it in December. I'm going to let it just stay where it is, early registration price, and we're going to push the registration up in January. So if you know you have an idea, an invention, a book, an event, something that you know you need to grow, market, God is calling you to create multiple streams, make sure that for Christmas, you ask that people give you money or they sponsor you to take that course. I promise you it's going to change your life. What else? Dream interpretation course. We're going to be releasing registration for that in January. And then in February, we're going to release registration for the life coaching course that a lot of you guys have been asking about. So, all right. What about dreams interpretation? There's a course that's coming up. So you can get ready to register for that. All right. Bless you guys. When is your coaching certification? Registration opens in February. It goes from May until June. Those that have been waiting to join Destiny Training Academy, maybe you've missed it several times, and you know you want to walk through inner healing, your purpose, your spiritual gifts, your identity. We're going to do a 36-hour flash sale sometime in February. And the last announcement, I will be doing a book study, a free book study in the whole month of January. You're going to see the flyers up soon. It's going to be in my free mentorship group, Mentoring and Training with Dr.Faith, and it's also going to be live on YouTube every Tuesday at 12 o'clock. I'm going to walk you guys through my book, Healing Your Past. So all the DTA folks are saying DTA is awesome. It rocks. So if you know you need inner healing, spiritual gifts, all of that, you join in. Yes, 12 noon starting the first Tuesday in January, I'll be doing a book study on my book. So if you haven't picked it up, pick it up, and we'll go from there. Art is a product that you can sell. So go ahead and sell that as well. All right. You DTA folks are amazing. They're trying to get everybody to join in. Someone said WMI is a blessing. Yeah, Thursday mornings, our team prays every Thursday morning. And like I said, we have the big fast coming up at the end of December, December 28th. It's going to be amazing. Awesome. Awesome. Bless you guys. I hope this was helpful. Hang in there. There is more. There's still more to come. God is faithful. He who begun a good work in you is faithful to complete it. He will complete it. So I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Bye-bye. See ya.